The deep state and its minions are freaking out after President Donald Trump, furious over revelations of spying against his campaign, lashed out against the criminal deep state on social media. Trump's explosive comments come amid growing awareness among Americans about the so-called deep state, with the latest polls showing 3 in 4 are troubled by the existence of this unelected network that secretly directs national policy. The president's remarks, as well as growing calls for criminal investigations, are likely to pour fuel on the fire as Americans seek to rein in the federal government and the shadowy forces that have hijacked and weaponized it. Speaking after revelations in major media outlets about reported spying by the Federal Bureau of Investigation, FBI, burrowed inside Trump's presidential campaign, the president suggested the tables have now turned on those who abused power in a bid to keep him out of the White House and then delegitimize his presidency. "Look how things have turned around on the criminal deep state," Trump wrote this week. "They go after phony collusion with Russia, a made-up scam, and end up getting caught in a major spy scandal the likes of which this country may never have seen before. What goes around, comes around." The comments were immediately followed by another tweet in which Trump argued that Spygate, as he is referring to the campaign spying scandal, would have massive implications. Spygate could be one of the biggest political scandals in history, Trump said, referring to the mole embedded in his campaign. And even before revelations of the spy in the campaign emerged, members of Congress and others were already saying the deep state's espionage against one of America's major presidential candidates was worse than Watergate. Trump recently said this was all bigger than Watergate, too. And it is. Indeed, long before the spy in Trump's campaign was exposed, it had already become clear that deep state swamp creatures at the highest levels of the Obama administration were illegally monitoring Trump campaign communications. To get access to those communications, they used outrageous partisan political research now known as the so-called Dirty Dossier to mislead the Foreign Intelligence Surveillance Act, FASA, court and get permission. And yet the scandal just keeps getting bigger and bigger, and more serious. Powerful Trump allies have joined the president's efforts to expose and bring down the deep state as well. "You have a criminal deep state and it's all coming out at breakneck speed," explained Fox News commentator Sean Hannity, one of America's most popular media figures, after highlighting Trump's latest tweets. "The things that we're learning are new, damning, and the details are unbelievable. The president is slamming the entire scandal and giving it a new nickname, Spygate. This is the tip of the iceberg. Deep state actors like the sanctimonious James Comey, they're racing to cover their tracks." Referring to 2018 as the year of the boomerang, Hannity went after former FBI boss James Comey hard, ridiculing his tweets and suggesting the disgraced ex-lawman was in hot water. "How will you explain what you did to your grandchildren? Did you have a spy in the Clinton campaign?" asked Hannity, mocking Comey's efforts to spin a scandal. Lying is exactly what Comey did under oath in front of Congress when he falsely claimed that he didn't decide to exonerate Hillary Clinton before he interviewed her. You know why? Because Comey is corrupt. With escalating talk of criminal prosecutions, deep state toadies, both witting and unwitting, have gone into overdrive in a ham-handed effort to protect themselves and conceal their schemes. Deep state allies in Congress are freaking out, too. Senate Minority Leader Chuck Schumer, DNY, for instance, was foaming at the mouth over a planned meeting on these issues between key House Republicans and top officials from the Justice Department, the intelligence community, and the FBI. "It will be a sham," Schumer whined, demanding that Democrats be allowed to participate in the meeting as well. Representative Adam Schiff, Democrat California, the top Democrat on the House Intelligence Committee, made similarly hysterical remarks. Among other claims, the far-left progressive and fervent deep state apologist suggested that Trump and his allies in Congress, by taking on the deep state corruption and lawlessness within the Justice Department and the FBI, were somehow working on destroying these institutions. He also claimed the White House was trying to break down the wall of independence between the White House and the Justice Department. Former FBI boss and deep state swamp creature Comey, who played a key role in lawlessly letting Hillary Clinton off the hook for her crimes, was among the most outraged by Trump's comments. Facts matter. The FBI's use of confidential human sources, the actual term, is tightly regulated and essential to protecting the country, Comey claimed on social media in response to the comments made by Trump about the criminal deep state spying on his campaign. Attacks on the FBI and lying about its work will do lasting damage to our country. How will Republicans explain this to their grandchildren? Without mentioning the president by name, the former FBI chief then called Trump a liar. Dangerous time when our country is led by those who will lie about anything, backed by those who will believe anything, based on information from media sources that will say anything, continued Comey, who is currently pushing his book portraying himself as some sort of heroic victim with a higher loyalty to stand by. Americans must break out of that bubble and seek truth. Ironically, an Inspector General investigation into the Clinton investigation is expected to break that bubble and bring out some truth, but not in the way Comey seems to be hoping for. At this point, there is no longer any question about whether the deep state and Obama administration bigwigs were spying on the Trump campaign, as reported even in notoriously anti-Trump newspapers. Indeed, disgraced former Director of National Intelligence James Clapper acknowledged on the far-left women's show The View that there was a spy in the campaign, although he said he does not like the term. Almost incredibly, the proven liar, who falsely told Congress that the National Security Agency, NSA, was not collecting data on millions of Americans, went on to claim that Trump should be happy about the espionage against him and his associates. Trump was clearly not amused by Clapper's bizarre remarks. "No, James Clapper, I am not happy," the president wrote on social media after hearing the outrageous comments. Spying on a campaign would be legal, and a scandal to boot. In other comments, Trump said he was working on cleaning everything up. "What I'm doing is a service to this country," he continued. "And I did a great service to this country by firing James Comey. A lot of people have said it. I think James Comey's got a lot of problems. If you look at what he did, if you look at all of the lies, the tremendous lies. Even some of Trump's people have argued against the existence of deep state, despite massive amounts of evidence showing that establishment insiders operating behind the scenes influence and often control policy, regardless of which party is in power." Among the senior Trump officials to distance themselves from the idea was Secretary of State Mike Pompeo, who in questioning by lawmakers this week said, "I don't believe there is a deep state at the State Department." While he acknowledged bad actors and malfeasance, he suggested it was all normal. In reality, the State Department is largely run by deep state pro-Clinton zealots and has been in the grip of the globalist-minded Council on Foreign Relations since it helped Castro and Mao enslave their respective nations. The deep state's propaganda organs that actually mentioned it, meanwhile, were frantically trying to deflect attention and deny even the existence of forces within the federal government working to sabotage the president in America. CNN, for instance, which has gained a reputation as one of the fakest of the fake news purveyors, reported, U.S. officials have told CNN there was no such source planted inside Trump's campaign to provide information to investigators. As usual, the alleged officials were not named, but CNN apparently expects people to believe it. In reality, even the fake media's polls show less than a third of Americans have any trust in the media, and CNN is likely at the bottom of the barrel. At the far-left newspaper Atlanta Journal-Constitution, at least they left the anti-Trump hysteria to the opinion writers. "We live in the age of idiocracy, and in the age of idiocracy we have a president of the United States who tells the world that the FBI, the CIA, the NSA and other U.S. intelligence agencies, the criminal deep state, have carried out a coup attempt against him, and that even now, Those agencies continue to cover up that conspiracy despite the fact that they are all led by people whom Trump himself appointed, wrote Jay Bookman at AJC, probably more dishonestly than ignorantly building up a straw man. It's nonsensical, but I fear Trump has come to actually believe it. Right now, the conversations about the deep state taking place across America are focusing in on the Justice Department, the FBI, and the so-called intelligence community. All of that is important, and top officials in each of those operations are indeed deep state swamp creatures whose loyalty to the Constitution is suspect at best, and who must be held accountable for flagrant criminality. But even if Trump manages to clean house in all those agencies, the deep state behind the deep state, as this magazine has identified the cabal that really runs the deep state, will remain firmly entrenched without more serious action. Unfortunately, a number of key deep state operatives have managed to obtain positions at the highest levels of the Trump administration, including some members of his cabinet. While there are far less deep state insiders than in most administrations, there are still enough to cause major problems. But with the American people becoming more and more alarmed by the powers behind the scenes, there is today a historic and perhaps unprecedented opportunity to expose and neutralize the criminal deep state. First, the players must be clearly and correctly identified. In a multi-part series on the insiders that make up the deep state within the government and even the deep state behind the deep state, this magazine calls out powerful semi-secretive and secret societies that have amassed enormous power over a period of generations. These groups include the World Government Promoting Council on Foreign Relations, the shadowy Bilderberg Network, the Trilateral Commission, the Secret Skull and Bones Society, and the occultist Bohemian Grove, among others. The money is followed, too. The special report series on the deep state can be read for free online, in an e-book, or in print magazine format ordered online. The question is no longer whether the deep state exists, that much is settled. Instead, the questions now are, how deep does it go, and what are the American people going to do about it? The answer to the latter depends on you.